Everybody, happy Wednesday. Good to see you, July 15th, Constitution Study Group. So today's special because I have my first real life friend guest come on for the live stream. And so that's why we're wearing the masks. I hope you can hear us okay.
Yes.
So we're gonna do the Constitution Study Group, and I figured since Justin is here, we're gonna make it more casual, and we're gonna talk about our experiences with the pandemic and the constitutionality of it. So I'm not gonna be reading so much the Constitution today. We're really gonna have more of a discussion. So, Justin, what have you been up to? I haven't seen you in person since friggin' end of February.
Well, ever since the lockdown, after I stopped working for a while, I've been staying at home, been making sure, anytime I went out, I always had a mask. I always kept myself distant from other people, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, yeah, I've just kept myself distant from, the public and large groups of people, not just for myself, but for my family who are also immunocompromised.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you guys had any experiences with COVID in your family?
We had one scare, but it was, as I said, it was just a scare. My mom thought she might have had COVID since she was having a lot of respiratory problems.
Okay.
After she got tested, it came out negative. So, luckily it was just like a cold or something, so that was good.
Hi, Mafelda.
Hello.
Yeah, we were given these masks this morning at the Take It Easy grand opening. That's where we met. And they're cool. They're from the state of Nevada, so they've got the Battleborn emblem on this side, and then on this side it says, what's the motto? Stay home, stay safe, right?
Let's see. Stay safe, stay open.
Stay open. Oh!
Interesting.
Oh, okay, cool. So they changed the motto. So, when we were in lockdown, the motto was stay home, stay safe, or stay safe, stay home. And so now since the state has reopened and they want to stay open as far as restaurants and everything and the casinos and the hotels, they've changed the motto. Stay safe, stay open. And that's why we have to wear the masks. So we're going to attempt to do this entire stream wearing our masks. It's going to be a challenge. I was telling Justin, we're going to have to eventually take them down to drink our tea. But that's okay. We'll deal with it when we deal with it.
Hopefully you guys can hear us nice and clearly,
Yeah, if you're having trouble hearing us, let us know, and we'll figure out a resolution. But I think these masks are pretty good. They're not too thick. They're easily breathable.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Paul called in on Monday, and he was wearing one of these, and it was pretty easy to hear him as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Justin, you work in restaurants, huh?
Yes, I do. I'm a cook at a restaurant called North Italia. So what would you like to know?
Yeah, how's that experience been with the mask mandate and with opening?
All right, so ever since lockdown,
yeah,
I've been at home until from March to June. From my understanding, the restaurant has been open for takeout only from March until June when we reopened.
Mm-hmm.
From there, it was, everyone had to wear a mask inside.
Thanks, Thomas. You be safe too. Thank you.
Yes, everyone had to wear a mask.
Yeah. So all your staff are wearing masks,
yes.
Right? And then when you first reopened, it was just staff that had to wear it, right? And then
yes,
the patrons were able to come in without a mask.
It was highly advised that they wear a mask to come in, but it wasn't mandatory. Yeah. Now it is.
Yeah. And so has there been pushback from your customers?
Yes.
Okay.
There has been some pushback from the customers from what the front of the house has been saying. Some guests are openly defiant. Some guests are more passive against it. But then again, a lot of other guys are openly complying to it without any problem.
I mean, it's easy enough, right? So what's the compliance? You have to wear the mask to go in, and then you have to continuously wear the mask until your food arrives, or
Yes, technically that's how it is, but from what I've seen, since we have an open kitchen with an open view of the dining room,
Mhm.
not all guests do that. Some guests take it off immediately after they come in.
Yeah, I'd understand that. It's uncomfortable, you know, especially if you're like meeting friends and you're trying to have a conversation, and then if you have your drinks come out and you're trying to drink and
yes, it is. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people. Understand that. Yes, it's hard to breathe in a mask. You know, not everyone can wear a mask for hours and hours on end. Not even us. Sometimes we have a hard time breathing as well.
Yeah.
But we still.
Yeah, Paul was saying that, like, in service, when you're, you know, serving your guests, you know, a lot of your work is based off of your charm and your personality and upselling stuff, and you need to talk to do that, you know, so
exactly.
he was saying that a lot of the staff are, like feeling faint by the end of their shifts, so.
Yeah, a lot of people are feeling, you know, they feel a lot more miserable, they feel a lot more tired and worn out after their end of their shift because, you know, they're having a harder time breathing and staying up because you know they feel like they're choking or they're not getting enough oxygen into the body. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, it's true. Totally understandable. Hey, so guys, we have the link open. Like, if you come to the link, the bit.ly/Tea Party, you will come right in here with us, and you can chat with us, and we can talk about this issue. You can talk about your experiences, you know, with mask mandates or any other like pandemic response from your state, because this is all about the Constitution. Now, this was something else I wanted to ask you, Justin. Have you heard of any stories of like the people that are defiant and don't want to wear the mask? Have you heard any stories of them citing the Constitution, you know, as the basis for their rights to not wear a mask?
I've heard of some, but it's very few and far in between. Majority of this is, you know, people claiming it's their constitutional right, you know, not to wear it because, you know, it's their own, like, expression or whatever they see it as. Or some people feel like it's the government's overstepping their boundaries.
Yeah.
Which, in some cases, yes, it can be seen as that. But, you know, it's the state and federal's responsibility to protect us.
Yeah, and that's true. So that's what we're going to talk about today. That's, you know, today's Constitution study group. I'm committed to doing this. I'm going to continue doing it every week, as like uncomfortable and vulnerable as it is to do this. And this is awesome. Like, you're the first person, not only the first person to come here in person and like be here while streaming, but you're the first person to join me while doing the Constitution study group. So, you know, usually
I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, and Justin and I are old friends, tea friends. Actually, we met, you were volunteering for the Southwest Tea Festival, right?
Yes, I was. That was 2017, I believe.
Wow. So 3 years ago. It feels like longer than that, really.
No, I think it was 2016.
It was 16 was the last one, because we took a break in 17, and then in 18 and 19 we did the World Tea Music. So, yeah, we did the Southwest Tea Festival 15 and 16. So, yeah, we met in 16. Maybe you were even at the 15?
No, I think I was at the 15 when I first met you. Because
at the Downtown 3rd?
Yes, because I remember now. I was attending that to check it out for the first time, to expand my horizon on, you know, tea and all that stuff. And that's where I saw you in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, you're giving this impassioned statement about tea, and I just couldn't stop listening.
You were giving an impassioned statement about tea. Wow, I don't think that's ever happened before.
No, you, of course not.
So we've known each other for 5 years now, and that's cool. And we've drank a lot of tea together. We've had a lot of really awesome conversations together. You've definitely been at the tea table. for some awesome conversations. And so, yeah, I think it's perfect. We can catch up now.
It is.
Yeah.
To be in the spotlight like this for once is definitely a new experience for me. It's something I don't do often.
Don't worry. There's only 3 people watching right now. Don't worry.
Oh, excuse me.
And you know what else is a shock? The tea I just served you. Let's see how good your sommelier skills are. What did I serve you?
It's definitely hot leaf juice. Was this the tea we were drinking earlier?
No, it wasn't. Nope. Oh, you know what? The reason why you can't identify this tea is possibly because...
I'm still using the same cup.
No, because this is a flavored tea. This is not a tea I would never ever share to you, but I had some here. It must have been a sample I was going through when someone else brought. But it's flavored, and I just assumed that you'd be able to recognize it from the flavoring. It's jasmine tea.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, this is not flavored. This is naturally scented, but it's jasmine tea, which I don't typically, have.
Normally you don't.
Brewing on the tea table. But it's cool, we go with it. I'll change out the tea.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, I don't change out the tea when I'm doing these live streams, because...
Understandable, it can be a challenge.
Hey, Jonelle, good to see you.
Hey.
So yeah, let's get back to the subject. Oh, hi, Marco. We're here to talk about the Constitution. And so I have actually addressed this exact thing. It was actually in the second part of the series that I did, kind of at the beginning of when I started this journey of looking at the constitutionality of these state mandates. And I had a lot of help from my good friend Tavia Campbell, who, is kind of my go-to reference for these, legal questions. She's not a lawyer, but she actually studied in grad school international politics. So,
oh, wow.
A lot of this stuff was like kind of prerequisite for her studies. And she had kind of put me in the right direction of where to read about these things and study about these things. And so since I've already gone over it, I'm not going to detail read into it. I want this to be more of a discussion format between us, but just to set the context of what we're talking about here. So we have the 14th Amendment. No, the 13th. No, okay, the 13th. We know what that is, right? Do you know what that is, 13th Amendment?
13th Amendment is the abolishment of slavery.
Yay, Justin wins. So he wins today, because I didn't know that. At the very beginning of doing this, I didn't know that. So you were, steps ahead of me. Yeah. I'm really honest. I did not study the Constitution since high school. And then even then, my interests were in way different places, and my head was in a very different place. My experiences were very different. So, I would hardly say that I properly studied it. Did you have to memorize things for a test, and that's how you were able to remember that, or is that something?
Kind of. We basically just had to regurgitate the information out again.
Okay.
But it's not something I studied since high school as well, and that was 10 years ago.
Yeah. So you have two things. You're a little bit younger than me, because my high school was a little bit more than 10 years ago, and maybe you just have a better memory than me. But, I now know the 13th Amendment. I've been studying this. I know a lot of these things, but, it's just something that kind of went in the back of my head. So, yeah, good on you for knowing that. But, no, yes, the amendment that I want to address is the 14th Amendment. It came right after the 13th. And that's the one that pretty much establishes that all men have the right to its government's protections, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of states the government's responsibility
to protect its citizens.
And the rights. So there's a relation there, right? So the citizen has a right to. Let me just read it. I'll just read it, and I'm just going to read the section 1, which says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So that's it right there. So it's like it's first saying the state shouldn't, take away any rights. And then the second says that the state has an obligation to preserve its citizens' right or, ownership of life, liberty, or property. And so that's related to public safety. What was the three? So like when it came to like the militia parts, like in on other days I was studying like the militia and the purpose of militia and what that is. So their purpose is that each state is responsible for managing a militia that is responsible for protecting public health, safety, and security. So like in regards to life, liberty, and property, you also have your right to those things being preserved by the government.
Yeah, there are amendments.
Yeah. So this is the amendment that this whole thing about why we have to wear a mask all comes from, right? Because the purpose of wearing a mask is not because the government wants us to look silly and to like be uncomfortable and all of this. The reason why is
for their responsibility to keep us healthy.
So yeah,
to keep us safe.
Yeah. So this virus doesn't continue to spread. Now, I think that there could be a bit more, and there's probably layers and layers of reasons why this isn't happening, but there could be a lot more transparency about these decisions that are being made. Like, so, the CDC finally is starting to make some official statements about masks and their efficacy in stopping the spread of the virus. But, like, from day one, that information should have been going out. You know what I mean?
It should have been going out, and it should have been crystal clear.
Yeah.
But then again, governing bodies shouldn't be suppressing it or bogging it down in whatever political litigation they're held up against or for.
Yeah. So there's the issue right there. So the states do have the right. No, it's not the right. States don't have rights. States and federal government don't have rights. The executive, our president, our representatives, our senators, they do not have rights. As citizens, as individual citizens, they have the same rights that like you and I have, which we can get into that. But they do have responsibilities. And so their decisions that they're making has nothing to do with their rights and their position as an individual, but as a piece of the decision making for either the state or the federal government. And other parts of the Constitution, it does kind of prioritize that at the top you have the federal government. Whatever laws they make, like they super trump everything else. Like they supersede everything else. But then the states also have a responsibility, like what's written right here is that the states have their own responsibility of not depriving its citizens of life, liberty, and property. But yeah, so it goes federal and then state. Actually, if states end up making a mandate that's different than the federal one, then they can do that. They can make something different. And then the individual doesn't have any say in, like, they do have a say, but they don't make the laws themselves. They don't create the systems themselves. The individual has the rights at the end of the line. And those rights is life, liberty, property. And then the right to vote, which is like written several times over throughout the Constitution. And actually, that right, so in this 14th Amendment, it says that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens. So if a state is getting wrapped up in, suppressing votes or having anything to do with like depriving someone of their right to vote, then yeah, they're not handling their responsibility correctly.
No, they're just They're just doing whatever their political party wants them to
Yeah.
keep themselves in power.
So, that's the difference there, you know? Oh, and then so we have the right to vote, and then we have the right to bear arms for the purpose of militia, which is, you know, something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside, and then the right to communicate. So the right to you know, free speech,
and all that jazz.
and then our right to communicate with our representatives, who have the responsibility of representing our voice, representing our opinions and our needs. The only way that they're going to know that is if we execute our right to communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that, Justin, the Constitution doesn't give us a single other right.
Really?
Mm-mm. But those are huge. Like the right to vote and the right to communicate with your representative, or to communicate in general, communicate to the public, communicate anywhere, in any form, in any platform, in any fashion, our right to communicate, our free speech. Those are very powerful rights that can kind of cover a lot of bases. You know, it's...
Mm-hmm.
So nowhere in the Constitution does it say that we have a right not to wear a mask.
No.
It doesn't say that anywhere.
And it's just silly if people think otherwise.
Definitely. So, that's done. We can stop looking at the Constitution. I think that's enough. But, like, I'm in the cycle of doing these study groups where we're looking at the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist Papers. So I did look up where we could read, and I read it ahead of time because I don't really feel like reading the entire document like I usually do when I'm alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I found, like, excerpts from both the Federalist and the Counter and Anti-Federalist Papers that kind of sets the tone of how the Constitution addresses the hierarchy in responsibility between the federal, the state, and the individual. And on this topic of the government's responsibility of protecting a citizen's rights to life, liberty, and property. And so I guess we'll start with the Federalist Papers because they were the winner, right? We should always start with the winning team. Now, do you know about that, Justin? You know about the difference between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists and
Now, I'll be
that
honest,
story?
I do have a minimal understanding of both sides of the Federalists and Anti-Federalists.
I had an even lesser understanding of it before I started studying it, so don't worry. Don't worry. Don't feel... I don't want anybody to feel like... That's the last thing. I think, like, when we're having these types of conversations about civic engagement and about community service and about racism and all these things that people are wanting to talk about right now, the last thing that we need to be doing is, like, shaming someone for their ignorance. Or, last week I had someone on and we were talking and they used the word... Who was I talking that said that? He used the word... ignorance. You get that?
Maybe it was a typo?
No. They intended to say that.
I mean, okay,
Oh my gosh.
so I get what they're saying.
So, like, ignorance is, like, not knowing something because you've never been exposed to it, right? And so that's, like, kind of, like, harmless. It's different than stupidity, which a lot of people, like, interchange those words, and that's the basis for a lot of the insecurities that happen. And a lot of the polarization that's happened politically in our community is because, like, people intermix the meanings of those two words to mean, like, the same thing. And so if you tell someone they're ignorant, like, immediately, or if you make someone feel ignorant, immediately they're going to think, oh, you think I'm stupid. I don't want to be stupid. I'm not stupid. And so, like, that's a really dangerous approach to take to these types of conversations.
It just breeds hostility.
Right? So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you don't know something, either from not being exposed to it or from the other side of it, so there's ignorance and then there's ignorance. And I don't know why I'm, like, blanking out on who freaking said that. I think I did it on a live stream. That's where that word came from. But ignorance is similar to ignorance, where you don't know something, but it's like you actively chose
to ignore it.
To, like, remove it from your database. And so that's not necessarily stupidity. Like, stupidity is, like, where maybe you get exposed to something and then, you know, you don't know how to process it and you can't calculate it, and it's just not within your capacity to understand.
But wouldn't ignorance just be denial?
Yeah, it's kind of like denial. So it's kind of like, it's like chosen reactive ignorance.
Okay.
Which, I don't know if that's as bad as stupidity either, right? And it is something that we do. So that's what I did. I've been exposed to these things when I was a kid. And maybe I was exposed to them at the wrong time, under the wrong context. Maybe it wasn't my fault, really. I mean, ultimately it was my fault. We're all responsible for our own actions and what happens in our lives. But it's also really important for us to understand the context of when we make those decisions. So, perhaps I was exposed to this information at the wrong time and under the wrong context. That wasn't the right level of engagement for me. And I chose to deprioritize that information in my life and be ignorant about it. Not stupid. I don't think I was ever stupid about it. It's not like I wasn't able to process these ideas. It was just I chose to
put it aside.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And so, I'm not trying to justify that that's a good thing. It's not. It's something that we need to work on, right? And it's the same thing about racism, about sexism. People that are in positions of privilege that don't really understand those things, when they choose to ignore them, which is the state that we've been in this country since the 1960s, right? I mean,
arguably way before then.
Maybe even before then, but I mean, before then, it was maybe more aggressive. Since the 1960s, we're woke. We had the civil rights movements, and we're interracial now. And, I'm interracial. Like, I was born interracial. I was born into a society where racism was a bad thing. And it didn't exist because we're better than that. And that's not true. That's absolutely not true. And we totally, ignored the truth and painted this, and that's also not stupid. That's ignorance. That's but it's information that's been there the whole time. It's just that we chose to ignore it, so yeah. So we got to get over that. No matter what position in life you are, what power position you're in, what economic position you're in, whatever, whatever marginalized position you're in, if you feel like this is happening to you, or if you're accused, if someone accuses you of being racist, and I know this is happening a lot, people are being accused, and instead of being defensive and offended, oh my god, I can't believe someone just said that to me, it's not true, it's maybe listen to it. I do that all the time. I get, because of the work I do and the way I do it and how vocal I am, and you can understand, I end up getting, people become angry sometimes. Not all the time. It's not a common thing that happens often, but it happens here and there. And it happens to everybody. You get into arguments.
People are just judging you for...
And they may say something, mean, and then actually they may apologize for it and say, oh, I was just emotional and I didn't really mean that. And I say, no. I wasn't offended. I'm not going to become angry about what you just said. I'm going to take it as truth, maybe the extreme of the meanness that you delivered and communicated that message to me was not true, was not your true feeling. But the basis of what you just said to me about, a lot of the comments that I get about my personality is that I'm too rigid. And so I take that seriously instead of just saying, oh, it's their problem. And that's what a lot of people do. They're like, oh, I'm not rigid. I'm just who I am. I have my principles, and I'm just who I am, and it's their problem that they can't handle it. And
are they not being rigid, though? Are they not being, flexible? Whereas...
No, it's true. It's true. No, I'm not trying to, take all the responsibility for that conflict. But I'm taking some of it, and I'm taking their words as, grains of truth, that, I can use to improve myself. So the whole reason why I brought that up is that, if someone ever does call you a bigot, or calls you discriminatory, or calls you privileged, don't take those things as the deep insults. Instead, think, well, why would they say that?
Exactly, look into yourself as to why these people see you as such,
And what work can I do to improve that situation? And so yes, long story short, if someone ever calls you ignorant, like don't hole in, like really try to embrace that and
understand why they're saying that.
Yeah.
And if they're saying it just to insult you, then they're the ones being ignorant, are they not?
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that, and a lot of probably even more value to that tactic and staying true to that tactic, because you can freaking go crazy hating yourself. Hey, Kayla, good to see you. You can go crazy hating yourself, like thinking that, oh, everybody hates me, and that way, therefore, I should hate myself. So, like, yes, you definitely should question the other person's motives and the lack of authenticity in their actions. And a lot of times all you gotta do is just like tone down their emotion and what they said, and then get to the core of what they said and say, okay, maybe there's some truth to this. And let's work on that. So anyway, ignorance is not a terrible thing, and I've gone through cycles of feeling insecure about my ignorance in this very series, in this constitutional study group. I'll ask a friend a question, like, oh, what do you think about this? And if you watch these things, you probably have heard me say some fucking crazy shit.
But at least with ignorance, you can actively work on improving and informing yourself to be more knowledgeable on the facts.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's the thing.
What do you plan on brewing next?
I don't know. Got some more tea here.
All right.
I'm gonna change out that jasmine. I mean, it's not that bad.
It was okay.
For a jasmine tea, so like officially, I do supply this tea to certain people, but it's not like in the level of quality that I usually like to be associated with our brand, and not even just like associated with the Tea Lit brand, but associated with this ideology of sustainability and where the industry needs to go. Right? I don't think that the industry needs to go in the direction of this jasmine tea, but there are certain conditions in the market, that make it where you would need that.
Was this jasmine tea kind of just like a cash crop?
Yeah.
Okay.
As most things that we are offered to consume are.
It could be a cash crop in an unsustainable way.
Of course. Yeah, and so that's more like it. I mean, cash crops are hardly ever sustainable.
Yeah, no.
Let's see what this is. Okay, so I went on a little tangent, but I think that was good. I hadn't addressed this thing about like insecurity and ignorance since starting this series, so I think it was good to get that out.
I think it's a good time to start voicing that now, because you've come a long way since you started. You're a lot more confident, a lot more, expressive about things now.
Yeah, I still have a longer way to go, though. A much longer way to go.
True, but you can see this as, a focus point of where you have gone.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Federalist paper that I found that addresses this, and I'm not going to read it, I'm just going to quickly, look at it, is Federalist number 45. Okay, so the Federalist Papers, those were the documents, those were the articles that won, that got voted upon. Okay, we're going to go down that path. So there was two paths. There was Federalists and Anti-Federalists. And so what ended up becoming the Constitution was actually kind of like there were certain points of the Anti-Federalist platform that ended up in the Constitution. So it wasn't like an all or nothing type of a thing, but it was like an argument. It was a healthy argument at this time for these different factions to talk and come up with an agreement. So the Federalist Paper were actually written only by 3 people, and Alexander Hamilton was the main one. He wrote most of the papers. And so this Federalist number 4, was written by Hamilton. And so that last week, whenever I was reading the Hamilton document. So on Instagram, I had the filter of the $10 bill, which was quite popular. Now we have like this on Instagram, we have this like very neon, very
American flag thing, right?
But what's cool about this angle is that you can actually see Godzilla up here.
Right.
Yeah, you see that? Whoever's on Instagram, I don't know who that is. I can't see who's there. Hi, thanks for being here. Yeah, Godzilla is back there. I like it. Actually, I had an intern from Brazil. This was before I met you, and he was working with us for a couple of months. And his very first project I had him do was make this collage. I was like, I want you to make a collage.
Is that where it came from?
Yeah.
That is so cool. I thought you made it.
No. I'm not that creative.
I don't know about that. I mean...
and so, yeah, it's just a collage. It's like a poster of Godzilla, doing Godzilla things. Which is interesting because there's like a building at the bottom here. It's an airport, he's like wreaking havoc and like causing an airport to explode. And the airport, yo, what's up? Dave, what's up, man?
Hey.
Yeah, so there's like an airport at the bottom that he's like smashing up and blowing up, and like it almost looks like the Allegiant Raiders Stadium that's coming up here in Vegas. So I think it's kind of cool. But, the collage, he had cut up some images from a magazine, and out of Godzilla's mouth it says, next week, same time, same place. And he's talking to the Tea Fairy. And then, Michael and I are, holding it up, trying to keep the tea served, calm down Godzilla. And Godzilla's actually pouring tea himself. He's doing some kung fu as well.
And yet it's been such a staple for your business. It's been
always
a pleasure to look at because it's Godzilla.
Who that guy?
Godzilla? Who is?
This
I'm
is Justin. Dave Kazuki. He's a friend from Hawaii. He's a friend from the start of Hawaii. How's it? Oh, yeah, Justin's also from Oahu.
Mm-hmm. Nuuanu.
Okay, nice. Yeah, Dave's still there. He's still lucky. To live Hawaii. I don't know. Okay, so Kayla says that she can't see the Godzilla, so I'm going to make sure she can see. No, yeah, that's a good idea. Bring it down. Just be very careful. This is a relic. We got some glare coming into it. Maybe if we bring it closer, you can see it.
Let's see. Here, you hold it.
Oh, man. Too much fun.
There, how's that?
This is America... entrepreneurship right here.
Same time, same place.
Oh, how's it? Oh, you live in Nuuanu too, Dave? I didn't know that. I guess I should have known that. That's cool. So Dave's from, maybe your families know each other.
Maybe. We lived like literally last street before the Pali, right across the street from the Buddhist hotel or Buddhist monastery.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I lived relatively near to there. I lived in Ko'ola Valley for a while. It was nice there.
Oh, it's wonderful. I used to love watching the rain just roll across the mountains.
Yeah, that one's a bit tricky to get hang back up. So, maybe if you just want to put it down, I'll hang it up after we finish.
Let's have Godzilla hang out with me instead.
Yeah, Godzilla gonna cruise here. He's drinking tea with us.
Which era is this? I think this is late 80s.
No. This poster came out in the 2015 version of Godzilla, which I think it was like 2 Godzillas ago.
Okay.
So Dave said he was at Nuuanu Pali off Old Pali Road. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Hold on. When was the last time you were there? It's been a while since you were there.
Yeah, it's been since 2015.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's not that long. 2015 seems to be like a year of theme here today.
Yeah, I actually I live right by the little Salvation Army donation center.
Okay.
Yeah. Which we live just a little further up.
Split. Dave, I don't know how you're handling it. It's like, I'm surprised you haven't had a seizure yet watching from that neon. I'm
surprised I haven't either.
Just don't look at it, Justin. Don't look at it. Well, it's interesting. On Instagram, I'm live streaming across all the platforms, and on Instagram, I found that, like, there is engagement. People do watch it, but the style of how people engage with Instagram lives and Instagram stories is like, they're popping around, and I'm cool with that, and so that's why, like, I always try to make these things sound biteable, like, it's just like kind of reiterating the same thing over and over again in different ways, so that, even if someone engages just for 15 seconds, they'll get something from it. So I've gotten into the habit of utilizing these fun, like, filters and stuff to, just to make the content a little different, have a little fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's especially seizure-y.
Yeah, it's just like blink.
So, I'm not the government. I'm not here to protect the public health, so not my business. I'm just here to
just
to
a
vote.
Citizen.
Yeah, I'm just a citizen. I'm here to vote.
Oh.
I'm here to communicate. Dave says he's a little dizzy.
Well, try not to pass out.
Oh, it's too much fun. Okay, so Federalist number 45, written by Hamilton, addresses the... Kayla says it's quite seizure-y. Okay, I'm going to do you guys a favor, and I'm going to turn off the seizure-y filter. I thought, it'd be cute to have, like, a little American flag bleeding edge. What else do we have here? Okay, so here's a
$10 bill.
No, not the $10 bill. Because we have two heads here, so it might be a little. Let's try it. Yeah, here it is. Maybe it'll work.
I think it's gonna be all over the place. Wait.
It had to be closer. Here we go. Okay. No. No filter. All right. We'll just go. We'll stick with this one. It's like no filter. Okay, so the Anti-Federalists were, like, against a central republic, and so oftentimes when you're reading them, it's hey, Cooney-san, good to see you. Ohio.
Hey,
sorry, we're not drinking matcha right now. We're drinking. This is some other green tea. Did I give this one to you?
Isn't it a little late for early, actually?
It's very early for Cooney. So Cooney, thank you for tuning in. He must have just woken up.
Good morning.
Good morning. Ohio gozaimasu.
Ohio.
So the Anti-Federalists were, like, the thing that really gets to me about the Anti-Federalist Papers is that, like, I actually like them a lot. The whole story of it, of how, like, they were written by a big distributed network of lots of different people, so you have all these different opinions and perspectives versus just the three, the Federalist Papers. And they're a lot more extensive, and they're very, like, reactive. Some other article got written, and then they would respond to it, like, as their counter argument to it. What I kind of don't like, and I feel, like, unsatisfied wanting more when I'm reading them, is that there's not a whole lot of solutions provided. There's just a lot of, like, negativity and negative feedback towards and also this assumption that just because they're Federalists, they absolutely want to remove any governments on the state level, on the more local level, and have it all in this one central spot. So a lot of the criticism is that, like, we can't do that. It'd be really bad. And what ended up happening is, like, the Federalists got their federal government, but then they also respected and laid a plan for the more localized governments to be able to manage their own responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So the counter argument to this Federalist number 45 is Brutus 1. Brutus number 1. So Brutus was a pseudonym. It is unknown. I mean, maybe if I research a little bit, there's probably some,
there is rumor of who wrote it, but it's still unknown.
Yeah.
As to who exactly is the identity of Brutus and the Anti-Federalists.
Yeah. And, I mean, what I've read from some people's viewpoints is that there was many different people, and Brutus could have been many different people and, coming together.
It could have been a pseudonym for a group of people, if not more.
But basically, it's the difference in argument between centralized and decentralized, which is the current argument happening, you know, like right here in the States, or, you know, just in the world, not even just in the States, in the world. And I mean, if you know me, you know I'm like huge into this like decentralized governments and decentralized everything, business and ways of life, and localizing things as much as possible. So you can understand why I'm into the Anti-Federalists, and I'm just, you know, I'm into like as much information as possible. So, you know, it wasn't until like the 1960s that the Anti-Federalist Papers started to be compiled and actually published and released into the public. So for all of those 200 years, all of those opinions and viewpoints were completely oppressed. Which is what happens often in history anyway, right? Like the winner always gets to tell the story.
History is written by the victor.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'll first address Federalist number 45 by, I'm sorry, it was written by James Madison. So it wasn't Hamilton. I'm sorry. I was incorrect. I said that. So it's a good thing that the $10 bill is not working on Instagram, because we'd be
even better.
We'd be wrong. You know, and it's okay to be wrong sometimes.
It is. This is how you correct ignorance.
Yeah.
You know, this is how you educate yourself.
Dave says, you're not as entertaining as Hamilton Broadway, but much more educational.
Would you like me to paint a happy little $10 bill in the corner?
Okay, so Hamilton, I gotta stop doing that. Madison, you know, this is a really long paper, and I'm not gonna read it, but basically he's saying that he lays out that federal needs to have its own place and its own centralized laws, and he did separate that states would be efficient in that the things that they need to protect is the life, liberty, and property, which is what's in the 13th Amendment. Or 14th Amendment. Jeez. So that's boring, and I'm not going to reiterate all of that stuff. I just didn't
want to bore Dave.
No. Well, Dave's gone now, but that's cool. I love that Dave was there for so long. That's awesome. Jonelle's having fun. That's cool. We're having fun, too. This has been different, you know? Like, I'm usually just, like, here is, like, looking at the, you know, and now I have friends, and Godzilla is here. Like,
right, look at that. Godzilla, Tooth Fairy, your brother in the corner.
Okay, so this Brutus number 1, I really dug. It is also a longer document, and if I was here alone, I'd probably read the whole thing, but, you know.
Well, why don't you give us a summarization of it in your
Okay,
words.
So a lot of criticisms here. A lot, and a little bit of solution, and I'll go over the solution, but I love this. It says, history furnishes no example of a free republic anything like the extent of the United States. The Grecian republics were of small extent, so also was that of the Romans. But of these, it is true, in process of time, extended their conquest over large territories of country, and the consequence was that their governments were changed from that of a free government to those of most tyrannical that ever existed in the world.
Mm-hmm.
This was written in 1787? Okay, let's see when it was written. Brutus number 1. I mean, I think they were all pretty much written at the same time.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were written a little differently.
1787. It was published on October 18th, 1787. So in 1787, that was stated, and that's pretty powerful. I liked that. A little bit unrelated to what we're talking about, but like this is like the basis of their argument of why we have to be very cautious about creating these large, centralized, powerful governments. Because like you can set them with the right intention of being a free republic. And so this Brutus number 1 kind of separates the meaning of a republic and a free republic. And the Anti-Federalists were like much more into the free republic, that like a democracy where you don't have this centralized government making all the decisions, that you're like extending that privilege and that responsibility to all of the citizens within that free republic.
Mm-hmm.
But that even if you set something up with the best intentions of being a free republic, if that civilization acquires so much influence, landmass, and somewhere else in this article, he says the population is 3 million people. I want to find it, actually, because I love the way that he wrote that. I'm like, that's so funny. It's like
some extremely huge number.
He makes it out to be like some huge number.
Because aren't we at, 300 million now?
What is the
in the
population?
U.S. alone?
The territory of the United States is of vast extent. It now contains near 3 million of souls. I love that he used the word souls.
Near 3 million.
And is capable of containing much more than 10 times that number. It is practicable for a country so large and so numerous as they will soon become to elect a representative that will speak their sentiments without their becoming so numerous as to be incapable of transacting public business. It certainly is not. So, yeah, that's interesting. That at that time, Jonell says it's 327 million. So we're at 100 times the size of influence than at the time of this writing.
127 times.
So yeah, the condition is much different, and this guy whoever Brutus is, totally predicted that, when your country, your society becomes so large, it's really hard to keep a free society. Or a free republic. And I think if we had a true free republic, that this argument that we're having about masks and about individual responsibilities wouldn't be so much an argument. You know what I mean? Because there would be mutual understanding between everybody about what our responsibilities are. But right now, we are not in a true free republic, because our republic, is holding the data. They're holding the information, they're making the decisions, and like we said earlier, they're not doing a really good job of engaging the public with those decisions, of why they're making those decisions. Why is a mask so important? You can go and research what doctors say, you can go and research what others say, but, where are our leaders actually presenting that information?
It's one thing to present your version of the truth as compared to undeniable fact.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where things get extremely complicated, is differentiating between truth and fact,
Mm-hmm.
Because truth is subjective, but fact, is fact.
That's interesting. I did a whole 3-hour long live stream just on that.
Really?
Not about the Constitution, but I was just ranting one day.
No, that's good.
About what is truth and how, is it possible to possess truth? And actually, no, it's impossible to possess truth. It's only possible to possess a perspective.
Oh, interesting.
A perspective of the truth. The truth is a completely independent thing of us as individuals and us as rational human beings. The only way that we can engage with the truth is through our perspective of it. Now, you cannot ever, because the truth is never ending. There's truths that, those perspectives to it are impossible to reach.
Mm-hmm. So
to say, I have all the truth and I know all the truth is irresponsible to say.
And it is.
But to set an intention of trying to come as close to the truth as possible is something that can be said. Now, it's not easy to do, but it's something that can be said. It's not an incorrect. To say I can possess all truth. Melissa says, no matter what, no matter how hard you try, your life experiences, etc., will color the truth. Yeah, we affect the truth. We are part of the truth. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But to say that we possess all the truth and we know all the truth is absolutely incorrect, no matter how intelligent you are, no matter how much computing power you have. You cannot say that. But you can say, I have the intent of getting as close to the truth as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, as possibly can, is still far from it, but to say that. And the only way you can live that is by increasing your capacity for perspective. Being open-minded, basically, right? You know, because if you're working within your own perspective, you're only going to get this view of truth at all time. And there's all this other truth all around you you're never, ever, 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 ever going to touch. You know, so, you know, in the context of what I was having this rant about, this was like months ago. It's been a long time. But the context was I was struggling talking with Hassan. You know, we were hanging out with him this morning. He's a bit of a business mentor of mine. And, you know, he's always challenging me. Like, what is TLET? What does TLET do? What is TLET's goal? And for so long, my goal was, like, transparency. We're transparency. We're transparent. We're inspiring transparency. Transparency, transparency, transparency. And he says, no, Elise, that is, like, that's the path. What's the goal? Yeah. And I'm like, well, the goal is truth. Trust. Trusting the truth is there and you have access to it. And he says, okay, so there it is. And in order to get to that goal, you're using transparency. And the key in doing that and seeing it from that perspective is that, like, I am not going to be pigeonholed into for the rest of my work and the rest of my energy expression to not evolve to the time. So, like, right now in this moment where we are in our current world situation, transparency is needed to not so much acquire the truth, but increase our potential to truth. So increasing those perspectives by bringing everybody's perspectives together transparently, that's exponentially more truth that you can have access to than from one perspective alone.
I wouldn't say necessarily truth, but more fact. You know, it's more facts you can get out. You know, because you can have mistruths that are seen as truths.
So then that's not truth.
But some people will see it as the truth, as they see fit.
That's their perspective of it. If they were to increase their perspective, then
okay.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like,
okay.
We'll never actually truly attain truth, because truth is constantly changing. It's constantly growing. More information and more reality is constantly being. But the more we can increase our perspectives and collect all those perspectives,
the more we can understand.
The little bit more connected to truth we are. But yeah, even if we were to bring all the world's data, even the most minute, like, minuscule data together into, like, the ultimate processing machine that could process everything, and we could see every perspective from every human being, or maybe in every living being, we still wouldn't, we'd be really damn close to the truth, but we still wouldn't be at the truth. There's still truths far beyond and impossible for any perspective.
We comprehend it.
Yeah. So yeah, to be hung up on, like, I have to have all the truth, I realized, yeah, that's a silly goal. But, like, what I am focused on now is trusting that the system that we're working within is built on the intention of constantly increasing perspectives and having the goal of getting as close to truth as possible. So yeah, you know, I had to process all of that in order to, you know, basically it's like the company mission, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, the company mission is no longer just transparency. Like, transparency is the tool that we're using right now to develop that trust between the players within our own company. So that's the tea farmers and the tea makers and any other proxies that we may work with in the supply chain, to the tea buyers, to the tea brands, to the tea shops, to the consumer. If within the TLET network, like, success would be creating that trust that everybody can share information, share perspectives to get inch closer towards truth. And then beyond that would be building that trust within the industry as the whole and the world as a whole. You know, all inspiring from this one seed, from this one, you know, our logo, that's a seed, right? Like, all coming from that, right? That's my goal. And so, yeah, doing this Constitution study group is definitely part of that. There was another part I wanted to. Oh, our Instagram video finished. We were on for an hour.
Wow, has it really been an hour?
Okay, so then it continues on. In a republic, so the republic is a centralized, that's like the federal centralized government, versus a free republic, which is more democracy. In a republic, the manners, sentiments, and interests of the people should be similar. If this be not the case, there will be a constant clashing of opinions, and the representatives of one part will be continually striving against those of the other. This will retard the operations of government and prevent such conclusions as will promote the public good. If we apply this remark to the condition of the United States, we shall be convinced that it forbids that we should be one government. In a republic, the manners, sentiments, and interests of the people should be similar. Oh, that's interesting. It's like the same paragraph.
Oh, maybe that's just a typo.
Yeah. The despotic governments, and so that's tyrannical. The tyrannical governments, as well as in all the monarchies of Europe, standing armies are kept up to execute the commands of the prince or the magistrate, and are employed for this purpose when occasion requires. But they have always proved the destruction of liberty and are abhorrent to the spirit of a free republic. So that's the criticism towards what we were trying to get away from. We were trying to get away from that monarch. Mm-hmm. And that's why the perspectives of the anti-federalists, the democracy advocate, was that their opinion was so like counter status quo. Which is why I always love it when there's like a Bitcoiner in the room or there's like a technologist in the room, because a lot of times they're very decentralized minded, and I love hearing their perspective, even though a lot of people can sometimes be like afraid of it, because it's like, oh, it's too against the status quo, it's too different.
Well, sometimes you need to go against the status quo in order to change your perspective or, further educate yourself in other ways.
So, okay, here's what he says about a free republic and what that solution would look like for a free republic. He says, a free republic will never keep a standing army to execute its laws. It must depend upon the support of its citizens. But when a government is to receive its support from aid of the citizens, it must be so constructed as to have the confidence, respect, and affection of the people. The confidence which the people have in their rulers in a free republic arises from their knowing them, from their being responsible to them for their conduct, and from the power they have of displacing them when they misbehave. But in a republic of the extent of this continent, the people in general would be acquainted with very few of their rulers. And remember, this is at a time when the U.S. was only 3 million people, or less than 3 million people. The people at large would know little of their proceedings, and it would be extremely difficult to change them. The consequence will be they will have no confidence in their legislature, suspect them of ambitious views, be jealous of every measure they adopt, and will not support the laws they pass. Hence, the government will be nerveless and inefficient, and no way will be left to render it otherwise. But by establishing an armed force to execute the laws of the point to the bayonet, a government of all others the most to be dreaded. So, he really didn't have too much of a solution to offer in this article. Just a lot of really great and impactful, powerful observations about skepticism. Basically, the skeptic. He was skeptical that a free republic was even possible. Like, he definitely talks a fair amount of shit about tyrannical governments and about how a republic, even if it's written as a free republic in its intent and its start, will eventually turn into a tyrannical system once enough influence is developed. And he even thought that a population of 3 million people, that was already too much. And so, and he totally predicted it. This is incredible.
And who said he isn't right?
No, he's totally right. He's totally right. So, the same arguments that were being had at the Constitutional Convention, the same, arguments that we're having now in our I mean, definitely, that's not the argument that's happening in the polarized politics. It's so weird. It's like the polarized politics, which is what everybody talks about, that divide, like Republicans, Democrats, liberal, conservatives. They're actually on the same side of this argument. It's like them versus like the Gen Zers that they're saying, or like the younger generation that's like much more into free information exchange and transparency, right? And just like accountability, and building trustworthiness. So yeah, it's not even polarized. The polarized segments that we always think of in politics are actually on the same side. There's been a lot of memes, a lot of really great memes passing around that, kind of poke fun at that. It's like, everybody makes it out to be that it's us against them and the right and the left. And it's like, no, they're actually in the same system. Like both of them are very much in this like centralized influence and power. Because they're both benefiting from it for the exact same reasons that he states here in this article. I want to read that again because that was good. The consequence will be they will have no confidence in their legislature, suspect them of ambitious views, be jealous of every measure they adopt, and will not support the laws they pass.
And that is what I think is how we as a people feel today.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
More so now than ever.
Yeah. And why this argument about the mask has become such a thing. That, like, we are not, if we were in a true republic, as he stated at the beginning of that paragraph, he said if we were in a true republic, we wouldn't even need military. We wouldn't even need that stuff, like, because there would be so much, like, pride and engagement from every individual citizen within that society that they would take care of it themselves.
But we don't have that right now.
And it's like, it's not even like we're asking people to go, pick up their guns and join the militia and protect our country. Like, that's not what we're asking. We're asking people just to put a mask on their face.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where that argument is. And so, yes, it's understandable. And this Brutus #1 totally hits the nail on the head on, like, why that's there. Unfortunately, reading through I'm not going to finish reading it. That's all I wanted to read for you guys. But, like, in the rest of the article, there's not really a solution proposed, which is what, I've found to be kind of common among a lot of the Anti-Federalist Papers, is that there's just a lot of skepticism. And I can understand why they didn't win the argument.
Are these skepticisms based on factual fears?
Yeah. No, it's based on facts. I mean, I find that the Anti-Federalist Papers to be, like, filled with more data, to be filled with more arguments, to be filled with more, like, rationalization of things, while the Federalist Papers were very, like, a manifesto-like. It was very, like, they didn't really talk about too much. So far, I've only read a few of them, I have a lot more reading to do. But so far, my assessment is that the Federalist Papers were far more manifesto-like and far more, like, less criticizing the current system or criticizing the past systems and more saying, okay, but this is the path. This is the way we need to do it. And the Anti-Federalist Papers spent a lot of time saying, okay, this is the shitty status quo, and this is why it's bad and why it's failing and why we need to develop, infrastructure and the foundation of our country to avoid those types of problems. But also, this republic idea that the Federalists are recommending is also a bad idea, too. And it's like, well, so what is that path forward? I haven't found that yet, but I still have a lot more reading to do. So I'll be excited once I start seeing that kind of, that kind of theme within the Anti-Federalist Papers.
Trying to see what their path is and what their solution proposed was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes some of the most, like, intelligent people that have the best ideas are, like, they're not like visionaries, you know. And I feel like whoever wrote the Federalist Papers were visionaries, right? Because they just like said with confidence that this is the way forward, this is it. You know, while you know someone that is equipped with all the data and understanding many perspectives, maybe even more perspectives than the visionary. But maybe they don't have the confidence, or you know, just their personality type has them as a pessimist. You know, and pessimists have a really hard time coming up with solutions because they're constantly like worried and having anxiety about the negativities of something else. Versus like, you know, a visionary is not going to be fixated on those negatives. A visionary is going to be fixated on the vision, right?
Fixate on the benefits of it and how to execute it.
Yeah. So somewhere in the middle ground is the best, you know. Like right now, we have a bunch of visionaries that are completely disconnected from reality, in positions of influence and power, and so that needs to change, right? So, thank you, Justin. Did you have fun?
Yes, it was very fun being on live stream talking. I never would have thought in a million years I would actually be here at a virtual TLIP party like this.
Yeah, well, you've been on one through your own computer, so...
Yes, I have, but not like this, in person.
So Janelle had asked a question. She says, the best last hope of Earth. Who said it, and what was he referring to?
The best last hope of Earth?
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. We'll address it. Thank you, Janelle. Abraham Lincoln? No. Yeah, it was Lincoln. Lincoln said it. Annual message to Congress on December 1st, 1862. 1 month before oh, here it is. I do not forget the gravity which should characterize a paper addressed to the Congress on the nation by the Chief Magistrate of the Union, nor do I forget that some of you are my seniors, nor that many of you have more experience than I in the conduct of public affairs. Yet I trust that in view of the great responsibility resting upon me, you will perceive no want to respect yourselves in any undue earnestness I may seem to display. Is it doubted, then, that the plan I propose, if adopted, would shorten the war and thus lessen its expenditure of money and of blood? Is it doubted that it would restore the national authority and national prosperity and perpetuate both indefinitely? Is it doubted that we here, Congress and Executive, can secure its adoption? Will not the good people respond to a united and earnest appeal from us? Can they, by any other means, see certainty, or so speedily assure these vital objects? Can we succeed only by concert? It is not, can any of us imagine better, but can we all do better? The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. We must disentrail ourselves, and then we shall save our country. Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. We of this Congress and this administration will be remembered in spite of ourselves. No personal significance or insignificance can spare one or another of us. The fiery trial through which we pass will light us down, in honor or dishonor to the latest generation. We say we are for the Union. The world will not forget that we say this. We know how to save the Union. The world knows we do know how to save it. Even we here, hold the power and bear the responsibility. In giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free. Notable alike is what we give and what we preserve. We shall nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope of earth. Our means may succeed, this could not fail. The hope is plain, peaceful, generous, just. a way which, if followed, the world will forever applaud, and God must forever bless.
Wow.
Yeah. Jonelle, thank you so much for sharing that. That was a powerful speech. I mean, geez. It's so funny, like, saying that, like, it kind of gave me chills about, like, about what we're dealing with right now, you know? Even though, I mean, he was talking about his Emancipation Proclamation.
But he was also talking about the future and what it holds.
Yeah, about what it means to be American, about what it means to be a part of the United States of America, and what this country is built upon, which is, you know, the Constitution, all the stuff we've been talking about today. So, Jonelle, thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that up. She says it always gives me the chills. Yeah, that was... We're giving people seizures and chills. Man, who knew? Who knew the Constitution could be that exciting? All right. Well, hey, Justin, we've been on for like an hour and a half. This has been good. Yeah,
it has.
We put it out there. I think we can go drink some more tea together. We're gonna enjoy a nice dinner. We look forward to connecting with our buddy
Brian
from New Mexico. You know, Brian Clark. I've known Brian Clark longer than I've known anybody in Vegas.
Really?
Yeah. When I moved to Vegas, I drove, you know, an unregistered, beat-up car that couldn't go past second gear. I drove it from friggin' Mississippi to Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
And I had a nursery of baby tea plants in the backseat of my car. And all along the way, I'd stop at different places, and I'd meet different tea people there and leave them a tea plant. And I had met Brian when I went through Albuquerque. He hit me up. He saw me traveling.
Was that back when he had hair?
No, I don't think so. But it was back when he had his tea house. And I met him there. He wasn't open, but it was cool. You know, so yeah, Brian is definitely like one of my first tea friends. And he's passing through town, so we're going to go get some izakaya together. I'm so excited. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. And
I hope we were able to help educate yourselves, as, you know, I found this to be quite educational for me. You know, I've learned quite a lot through this experience, and it's been a wonderful, absolutely wonderful chance to go through, because, you know, I've learned a lot more about our amendments, constitutions, you know, and what it means today. Yeah. So we'll be doing this, and this is never ending. It'll keep happening. So even after pandemic is over, like, I plan to keep this as an ongoing thing. And I think you should, you know. Yeah. You should keep doing these live streams, you know, and different topics. Yeah. Because it'd be great for you, it'd be great for everyone around the world to get together. Yeah. And learn what privilege that we have to be in this free republic. You know, we have the power now with technology and information exchange. Maybe we can take all this stuff that Brutus said and said, hey, fuck that, we're better than that. We can do better, and we can hold ourselves accountable. We can either show that, yes, we as a people are better, or we as a people are not, and he was right. Yeah, let's be better. Let's all be better. Cross your fingers. And wear your mask. Yes! Wear